Hello, good day, guys. Welcome back to my channel. Let us talk about today one of the subjects or one of the topics in language learning materials development. Let's talk about the types of instructional materials. So, as I mentioned a while ago, we will be discussing today the types of instructional materials. This is still under our subject language learning materials development. Instructional materials. First, let us define what instructional materials are. Instructional materials are also known as teaching learning materials, or the TLM, are many collection of materials including animate and inanimate objects. Note about that. It could be animate or inanimate objects and human and non-human resources. So we can make use of even human resources as a form of our instructional materials that a teacher may use in teaching and learning situations to help achieve desired learning objectives. So why do we make use of instructional materials? We use them in order to achieve our desired learning objectives. Before we start our lessons, there are objectives which we set. Now, in order to achieve them, in order for our students to absorb the lessons, then we are making use of different materials. In order to present the topics, we are making use of different materials or instructional materials. Instructional materials may aid a student in concretizing a learning experience. So, the learning experience of the students would be concretized because usually if you would just tell the students the concepts, then it would be quite difficult for them to really understand and absorb those concepts. But if you have instructional materials like videos, like pictures, then those concepts could be concretized so as to make learning more exciting, interesting, and interactive. Note about that also that through the use of learning materials, we can make learning more exciting, more interesting, and more interactive. To continue, they are tools used in instructional activities, which include active learning and assessment. The term encompasses all the materials and physical means an instructor might use to implement instruction. How would you, as a teacher, implement the instruction? The things that you would be using as a teacher, as an instructor in your class, are all instructional materials and facilitate students' achievement of instructional objectives. Whether you would be using books, whether you would be using modules, or whatever it is that you would be using, workbooks, for example, worksheets, all of those are part of instructional materials. Basically, we can differentiate, or we can categorize instructional materials into two. We have the traditional and the innovative resources. For these slides, we will be focusing more on the traditional. Then later on in our next discussions, we will be talking about some innovative resources as well. There is endless list of teaching and learning materials. The ones we are most familiar with are traditional resources. These are the common resources that we use, common instructional materials. These may include any textbooks and workbooks used in the classroom. For example, language arts classrooms almost always have literature textbooks. English teachers, we make use of literature textbooks, writing textbooks. When we want our students to write, then we would be using writing textbooks. We would be using writing textbooks so that we would be able to make our students understand the concepts of writing and even vocabulary and spelling workbooks, even workbooks in vocabulary and spelling. More innovative materials may include charts, maps, videos, images, diagrams, and flashcards. Now with technology around us, there are so many instructional materials which we can use with the aid of technology. Let us continue. Now, let's talk about these instructional materials. We can categorize instructional materials into five. We have print, audiovisual, and electronic interactive. Under print, we have textbooks, pamphlets, handouts, study guides, and manuals. Now, under audio, cassettes, microphone, and more recently, we have the podcasts. That's under audio, something that you would just listen to. And visual, something that you can see, something that students can see and can look at. Charts, real objects, photographs, transparencies. So even real objects, photographs, photos that you use inside your classroom. Visual, that's under visual. Then we have the audio visual, something that they can look at and at the same time they can hear and listen to. Slides, tapes, films, film strips, television, video, multimedia. And under electronic interactive, we can make use of computers, graphing calculators, and tablets. So those are the types of instructional materials. The first one, let's talk about textbook. What is a textbook as an instructional material? It is the main reference for the entire course. These are the features, usually chosen by the school. Many schools would prescribe the textbooks that they will be using for their schools. Or if you are in the public sector, it is the department which will choose the textbook which will be used by all schools in the country. Reflects the minimum learning competencies for specific levels, because the curriculum would specify the learning competencies and they would be the ones to provide and to prescribe the textbooks. Arranged in units or chapters which can be labeled according to themes, topics, skills, grammar structures, or functions depending on the syllabus type followed. And lastly, it contains readings, teaching points, drills, activities, and tasks for everyday lessons. So the tasks are there, the activities are there, the readings which one needs to study would be there also. The teaching points, the important points to be studied are presented in the textbook. That's the first one. Another one, we have the workbook or the skill book. Here are the features. The first one usually accompanies the textbook. So you have the textbook and then the workbook. The activities will be performed, or that's in the skill book, the activities will be there. The discussions are in the textbook while the activities are in the workbook. Provides exercises and drills on specific skills in listening, speaking, and reading and writing. So the activities are there in the workbook. Presents reinforcement and remedial activities to support lessons in the textbook. So there are reinforcement and remedial activities. If the students were not able to fully understand the discussions in the textbook, then the workbook may help. Let's have the other one, teacher's book or teacher's manual or teacher's guide. What are the features of a guide or a manual? Contains a detailed rationale for the textbook. So the rationale, the objectives of the textbook are explained there. Explain the scope and the sequence for the lessons. How are the lessons arranged? That's being explained in a manual. Another one includes introductory notes on how to use the textbooks, being explained there in the manual. There are notes explaining how the teachers may use the textbooks, specific objectives for each lessons, and suggested strategies for teaching the lessons. Other strategies, the approaches, the methods. Okay, guys, let us continue on the common type of instructional materials. The next type of instructional material is the work text. Now, how does a work text works, or what are the features of a work text as an instructional material? So it combines the features of the textbooks and the workbooks. So here there are exercises, and at the same time there are discussions. Provides teaching points like those in the textbook. So there are the concepts are presented, and together with the exercises, reinforces the teaching points with many drills and exercises, just like those that contain an A to Z or practical suggestions for teaching. Another type of instructional material is the module and self-learning kit. The module and self-learning kit. Now, many education systems now make use of the modules. So what are the features of a module? More interactive than the other types of written IMs that appear in the workbook, because in the workbook there are just exercises. Develops independent study through self-paced instruction. It's self-paced instruction because usually the answers on the exercises are all also included in the modules, so that students can check how they pace, how they how are they able to accomplish the exercises. Did they get it right, or did they commit mistakes, so that they would know whether they would have to study more. Contains post-test, pre-test, lesson inputs, exercises and drills, provisions for self-paced learning. So again, it's a provision for self-paced learning on their own. So there are already pre-tests and post-tests included. That's the fifth one. The other one is a reference book. It provides general information on various topics. Examples are encyclopedia, dictionary, atlas, and manual. So we can also use them inside our classrooms. The next one is multimedia instructional materials. So what are they? Audio and visual materials accessible through various media like radio, television, and the computer. And now we have the internet. So multimedia, the videos that we get there. Also includes interactive courseware on various topics. Some are interactive, there are games also. And that's the end of the presentation. I hope you were able to understand the types of multimedia. The next presentation will be about the latest instructional materials that we can use in our classes. So the more modern and more innovative instructional material. So watch out for that video. Thank you for watching and listening. I hope you learned something today.